Hey, everybody, we are going to talk Social Security today. One of the biggest questions I get as a financial planner is what can they do to fix Social Security? You probably heard that Social Security is not exactly on the best financial footing. The latest estimates have it running out of money within 10 years, as in money in its reserves. So, we're going to talk about one way that a lot of people think they should fix Social Security, in that instead of investing its money in treasuries, invest some in the stock market. We are going to talk about what that would mean, but before we dive in, please take a minute and check out fool.com/MattF. The average retiree leaves a lot of Social Security on the table. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. So check it out, fool.com/MattF. I'll put the link in the description, and this is the best way to support this work we are doing on YouTube. So I'm going to quickly share my screen just so we can kind of get some background here. All right, so hopefully everybody can see that. So should Social Security invest in stocks? So at the end of 2023, this was the latest year as of this recording for that we have official year-end numbers for. Social Security had about 2.8 trillion, that should say trillion, in reserves. It's been suggested a lot of times that investing those reserves better could help solve Social Security's financial problems. So right now, all 2.8 trillion of that is invested in treasury securities. There's special kinds of treasury securities, but they are fixed income. They pay, 2-3% a year. It's not a high income form of investing at all. And with the stock market averaging long term returns of about 10% per year, it would seem that that might be a better way to put some of that money to work. Now, nobody is calling for all of Social Security's money to be invested in the stock market. That wouldn't be a great idea. But just as I mentioned, it's not exactly a pile of cash. It's invested in special government securities, kind of like the treasury bonds that you can buy, and they earn interest income for the program. It's actually a pretty substantial source of income for the program. It's not as much as, say, payroll taxes, but it is a lot of money. So in 2023, Social Security's reserves produced about $67 billion in interest income. This translates to a return of about 2.4% for the year on that $2.8 trillion in reserves. So, as I mentioned, the S&P 500, which is the general best indicator of how the stock market's doing, averages between 9 and 10% total returns per year over long periods of time. In 2023, it was 26%. So that's why a lot of people kind of look at this and say, okay, shouldn't we put our money to work somewhere else? If we are running deficits in Social Security, things like that, could that be a way to solve it? And it's with those numbers, it's easy to see why you might think it is. So there's a little bit to know here. So almost nobody is talking about putting all of Social Security's money in the stock market. That would be a way too aggressive form of investing. You wouldn't do that with your retirement portfolio, most likely, when you're 70 years old. So you wouldn't want all of your Social Security money invested in the stock market. But there have been many calls to invest a little bit more aggressively than simply buying government bonds. So what could this look like? So the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, or CRFB, did an analysis of several different ways we could fix the expected gap in Social Security funding. One of them involved a diversification of the trust fund assets, not completely in stocks, but to hopefully boost returns, putting some money in the stock market. So the framework, it evaluated what could happen if the Social Security Administration were allowed to replace some of the portfolio of that $2.8 trillion that's currently invested in government security with stocks, with corporate bonds, which pay a lot more than treasuries for the most part, and other investments with an effort to boost yield. So you don't want to put too much in stocks. Over the past 50 years, the stock market has gained as much as 38% in a year or lost as much as 37% in a single year. That's a lot of volatility, so you don't want a lot in stocks. So various proposals have been made to put 15 to 40% of trust fund assets in stocks over the years, with changes gradually phased in. So you wouldn't just take, $1 trillion and throw it in the stock market tomorrow if you decided to do this. The trust fund assets would gradually be moved a little bit by little into the stock market. And Generally, that would probably mean index funds and like an S&P 500 index fund or something like that, not necessarily in individual stocks. So what would it do? And here's kind of the disappointing part. So the analysis found that the changes proposed would increase trust fund returns by 8% on average in the average year. So that means if the trust fund was going to make $50 billion one year, it would make $54 billion, which is 8% more than 50 billion. So, however, it would also increase volatility. I mentioned that the stock market has gained or lost 37, 38% in a given year in not too distant past. That would make returns a lot less predictable. So in all, over the long term, making that change would close roughly 6% of Social Security's long-term funding gap. Where's that other 94% going to come from is the question. So this would definitely help. That's kind of the takeaway. It would, if we're willing to put up with a little more volatility, and again, 15 to 40% in the stock market would not be a ton of volatility. That would actually be a pretty conservative way to invest your own retirement portfolio. But that other 94% is going to have to come from some combination of either benefit reductions or increased taxes for the most part. So just using some real world numbers, based on the current returns, that the money that it made last year, an 8% increase in trust fund returns would mean about an extra $5 billion more in income for Social Security based on the current rate of return. So meanwhile, in 2023, when the deficit really isn't as bad as it's expected to get, Social Security ran a $41.4 billion deficit. Those are expected to get much worse over time. So you see how that $5 billion extra return is not enough to close the gap all by itself. So that's kind of where things stand when it comes to investing Social Security's money in the stock market. So that's just one of the proposals being suggested. There are a lot of different ways we could fix the Social Security funding gap. I've done many other videos on them, so check them out. It could include anything from increasing payroll taxes gradually over a certain period of time, to increasing taxes on the highest earners, to raising the full retirement age, to cutting benefits for the most well-off retirees. Like Warren Buffett doesn't need to receive a Social Security check. And there are a bunch of other different ways this can go. That the benefit reductions and increasing taxes are very broad categories that could be implemented at some point. So let me know, what do you think is the best way to fix Social Security? Do you think it would be a good idea to put at least some of Social Security's money in stocks, in corporate bonds, generally more aggressive investments than just Treasury securities? Or do you think that it is right where it should be and we should try to fix the problem somewhere else? I would love to hear what you have to say on this. Please leave me any comments you have. I'll do my best to respond to any of them individually, and I will see you next time. Here's an interesting fact. Most retirees don't realize they could be missing out on almost $23,000 in extra Social Security benefits every single year. The truth is, Social Security has hidden strategies that could help you maximize your retirement income, but most people never take advantage of them. Luckily, our sponsor, The Motley Fool, has got you covered so you don't make that mistake. If you want to boost your benefits and retire with more confidence, go to fool.com/MattF right now to learn more about Motley Fool Stock Advisor.